Cockapoo puppy is biting your hands, your ankles, your clothes, maybe even the children, and you're starting to wonder if you've somehow got this all wrong, then this video is for you. Because most puppy biting advice online focuses on stopping the behaviour as quickly as possible, but very little of it will explain what's actually going on emotionally underneath the biting. And when we misunderstand the behaviour, we usually end up making it worse without meaning to. So in this video, I want to help you understand why Cockapoo puppies bite, why it often gets worse in the evenings, and what owners accidentally do that escalates it, and then what actually helps you long term. Because this isn't about having a bad puppy, and in most cases, this is emotion, not aggression. Section 1. Your puppy is not being aggressive. One of the biggest fears that owners have is my puppy seems aggressive, especially when the biting is really intense. They could be grabbing clothes, hanging onto sleeves, biting harder, growling, jumping up, and it can feel really shocking and really personal. But for the vast majority of puppies, especially Cockapoos, this is not aggression. This is emotional overwhelm. Puppies explore the world with their mouths, and they will use their mouths when they're excited, frustrated, overtired, overstimulated, dysregulated, when they're teething, when they're struggling to settle, even when they're trying to socially engage. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is assume that the puppy is trying to be naughty or dominant rather than looking at what the puppy is struggling with underneath the behaviour. Most owners try and stop the biting itself. The real shift will happen when you start looking at what your puppy is telling you and what they're finding difficult emotionally. It's information. It's your puppy saying, I cannot regulate myself very well right now. Section 2. Why Cockapoos often struggle more. Cockapoos are the best dogs, but they are very emotionally busy puppies. They're highly social, highly engaged with people, very sensitive to movement and interaction, and many of them struggle to switch off. So owners can accidentally end up with a puppy whose switch is constantly on. Constant interaction, constant stimulation, constant engagement with people. And then at 6 p.m, the puppy turns into what everyone calls a land shark. And what we're actually seeing in this moment is a nervous system that's overloaded because your puppy hasn't learned to rest yet. They are overtired and dysregulated, they're frustrated, their arousal levels are too high, and biting becomes an outlet for all that collection of feelings. That's why I hear so many owners say he's lovely in the morning, but he's awful in the evening. The pattern is incredibly common. Section 3. The biggest mistakes owners accidentally make. Now, the important thing for me to say here is that most owners are doing these things with really good intentions. You're absolutely trying your best. But some very common puppy advice can accidentally escalate biting instead of calming it down. One of the biggest ones is too much freedom too soon. Puppies who wander about, they get constantly stimulated and they're constantly active, can become much more dysregulated. Another huge one is overtiredness. A lot of puppies don't get enough proper daytime rest, and overtired puppies bite really hard. They lose emotional control quickly. Another common one is squealing or shouting ouch or waving your hands around when the puppy bites. It might briefly interrupt the behaviour, but for many Cockapoos that can increase their arousal and excitement and turn biting into a game. Then there's rough play escalation. inconsistent responses from different family members, expecting too much too young from your puppy, trying to train through exhaustion instead of helping the puppy regulate. And honestly, this is why many of you will feel like nothing's working. You're trying to teach a puppy whose nervous system is already overloaded. Section 4, what to do in the moment. So what should you do when the biting starts? First off, pause. Most humans become faster and louder and more reactive when puppies bite, and that can add more stimulation into an already dysregulated moment. Reduce movement, lower intensity. Avoid frantic talking, pushing the puppy away, or exciting interactions. And then think, what does my puppy need right now? Instead of, how do I stop this as quickly as possible? Sometimes your puppy needs sleep. Sometimes they need help to calm down. Sometimes they need less space so they feel more secure. Sometimes they need a calmer transition between busy activities and resting. This is where your safe space can massively help. Pens creates barriers, not as punishment areas, but as a support for your puppy. Many puppies will generally struggle to switch themselves off if they've got too much space and there's too much going on. Section 5, what actually improves biting long term? Long-term improvement comes from helping your puppy feel safer, calmer, and more regulated overall, not from constantly correcting the biting in the moment. So this is where things like proper sleep, predictable rhythms, calmer transitions, safe dress spaces, emotional regulation, and calm, consistent human responses can make such a huge difference. Because puppies learn best when their nervous system feels safe. And honestly, a lot of Cockapoo puppies that I work with improve dramatically once we stop accidentally keeping them in a constant state of over-arousal. Owners often think they need to do more, and often the shift comes when we slow things down. So if your evenings are currently feeling chaotic or your puppy is constantly biting you and you feel overwhelmed by it, I've linked my Stop the Evening Chaos guide below because it walks you through some of the foundations that help puppies settle and regulate more successfully. If you'd like more personalised support, I also work with Cockapoo owners one-to-one online. And if this video helped you, don't forget to subscribe because I'll be making a lot more Cockapoo puppy videos here on the channel. See you in the next one.